There we go. Wasn't much of a fast bite going. I threw some top water and couldn't get a bite. Threw an underspin and first one. Threw an underspin, didn't get a bite. And so I see a lot of baits kind of moving around under the boat and off of this shallow point. So I got this little tube right here. It's a small tube. I generally fish with a bigger one, but these little tiny tubes work pretty good. You know, it's funny how 4 days can make a difference. I was out here Monday on Labor Day, and 6 o'clock in the morning, temperature was already like 75 degrees. It was a heat wave. I think it got up to 112, 115 out here. I get out here this morning, which is Friday. It's like 50 degrees when I get here this morning. Water temperature is 75 as opposed to 79, so definitely getting into that fall period now. There's another one. I'm just taking this tube and I'm just bouncing it off the bottom. That's all I'm doing. Make it look like a little crawdad trying to get away or whatever they might think it is. And it's working pretty good. They're pretty shallow this morning. And chasing these, you know, these bait fish up. And I just think a small tube was a good idea today. Not letting this thing set too long, keeping it moving. And when I feel pressure, I just lift my rod tip and he's got it. It's real easy for these bass to choke down a small bait. And sometimes you got to cut the hook and everything else so you can, so they'll make it. But when I'm hopping the bait along like this, I just, I'm not going to reel down on that bass or anything. I'm just going to lift my rod tip and reel. It's a sharp little hook I have on there. I'll show you how I set this up in the particular tube. I'll show you in a little bit, but that's just kind of the way I do it. And generally I'll get them right on the lip and get really good hook sets, and I won't wind up hurting the fish. Some people have asked me why I haven't, you know, moved up to a bigger boat, maybe a Nitro or a Ranger, you know, a glass boat or whatever. Just to be honest with you, I'm not really all that picky when it comes to what I fish out of. As long as my needs are met and this boat gives me everything I need, I'm good, because the one thing I can assure you, the bass don't care what we fish out of. I've seen guys out here on jet skis fishing. You got kayaks, you got float tubes, you got all kinds of stuff, and I just figure get on the water, go out there and catch them. There we go. Sometimes these bass will get back in these pockets and they'll trap the bait back here. This one here's got some size to him. Oh yeah, that's a nice one here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, come on over here, buddy. Come on over here. Come on over here. There you go. Probably about 1.5 pounds. These spotted bass, you can take 1.5 pounds like this and he'll fight like he's a 3-pounder. Not seeing much evidence of crawdad feeding. I keep an eye on that because when they start hitting on crawdads, that's when I throw that bigger tube. He took that one on the drop. Just lifted the rod tip, and there it was. Come on over here, dude. Some of these bass were getting pretty skinny out here, and I can tell they're really starting to feed up. Bellies are getting a little bit bigger, and as we're getting into that fall period, these guys start getting a lot more aggressive. I love fishing. Better than the last one. This guy's a little bit better. Sitting right by that dock. There's a heron on that dock. They're my favorite birds. I will literally chase them around the lake and fish where they are. And I'm telling you, 80-90% of the time, I'm going to catch fish where they're at, because they're snatching up the bait. This guy here has had some battles. I don't know what's going on with this one. But he's sitting there on that dock. Maybe there's a big one there, I don't know. Hey everybody, it's Dalton. Been wanting to do a tube video, and I've done quite a few tube videos, but the tube that I will use most of the time is a 3.5 inch Strike King coffee tube. I put a 3/4 ounce goby head in it, and I work it usually pretty deep. I've caught some big bass with that thing, but it hasn't produced as well this year. So I wanted to do a video on a smaller tube. This is called a Terminator. The little Terminator tube. They're real small. This is a green pumpkin purple color, which is probably my favorite color. And it's a nice little tube. My wife loves them. She catches all kinds of fish with them. We've got them in different colors. The key to me for a tube are these appendages. I don't like tubes that have stiff appendages. I might as well throw a Ned rig. I want the appendages to be loose, because when I'm working this tube, I want those appendages to flare. It gets me more bites. Now I throw this thing on a simple little ball head jig. Doesn't have to be anything special. A little ball head jig will work just fine. I like to use an 1/8 ounce. And I rig it up. Looks like that. Got it on 10-pound test. Seaguar Invictus fluorocarbon. Just throwing it on a spinning rod. Now, a few minutes ago, I had one of the bass get that tube pretty far down his mouth. I was able to help him out with that, got it done. But the hook set on this is real important, because they will choke this thing down. So what I do when I throw this tube out, and I'll throw it in both shallow and deep water, is I just kind of bounce it along the bottom like this. Now, while I'm doing it, if a bass starts biting it, I don't stop. I keep bouncing the tube. What happens is it gives that bass the impression, whatever it is, trying to get away from him, and he just keeps going after it, and you're going to feel the pressure on the tip of that rod, and you just lift your rod tip and reel, and you're going to hook him every time. That is the hook set that I've rarely had a problem with as far as bass choking this thing down, and it works really well. So a small tube is going to catch you a lot of numbers of fish. It isn't always going to catch big ones, but if you're looking to catch a lot of numbers and you just want to have some fun, pick up some of these little, they're called, oh, I misread it, it's an intimidator. Pick you up some of these little intimidators and just some little 1/8 ounce ball head jigs, tie it on, catch them. Now as far as rigging, you know, it's pretty simple. If you've never fished a tube, I'll go over this with you real quick. If I'm fishing one of the bigger tubes, they don't have as much oil as this one does. But all you do is just take that ball head jig and you work it all the way up to the end. And then you simply poke that eye through, and that's how you rig it. It's a real simple setup. If you're using a Strike King coffee tube, what I like to do, since it's a drier tube that doesn't have as much oil, is I'll take some scent and I'll put it in the opening, and the jig head will slide right through. So that's just kind of how I rig them. Makes it a little easier. You don't tear the jigs up, and works out real good. Try these little tubes. You'll catch a bunch of fish. Talk to you next time.